Hi. I know these really aren't equal, but like I don't care anymore. Also, I feel like this one's gonna fall out. Welcome to Actual Spinster. My name is Anna Marie. This is a video about my 25 favourite books of all time at the age of 25. And I think I probably should have done this like earlier in the year because I actually have only like 1 month left of being 25. You know, and I feel like I probably should have done it like when I turned 25 rather than like letting the whole year like accrue. But time's fake anyway, so this is what we have. And instead of like talking in detail about any of these books, because I think I'll just like go on and it will be so much to edit, and there's 25 books, and because I love them a lot, like I feel like I have quite a lot of things to say about them, but like, so instead I've decided to split up. Okay, like this is actually just too annoying. Let's also pretend that's equal. So instead I came up with this idea where I am going to split up these books into 3 categories, or like themes, and I will talk more about those categories when I get to them. And I also kind of dressed up, like tried to sort of dress up in a way that is like connected to the category. It is like a little bit arbitrary. I do definitely think there's like massive overlap with like all of these, because I like books that are innovative and that are about care and love and working the world into a better place together, and I like books that make me feel like deep emotions and grief as well. I guess it's like a key part of a lot of these books. So yeah, all of it is kind of, like I said, a bit arbitrary, but I just thought it would be like a fun way to do it, and that way I can kind of be talking about the books but just not in a really long way and really extensively. So I hope you enjoy this video. I'm wearing like more makeup than I have in a very long time. Actually, I probably never have worn this much makeup in like one go. Yeah, definitely let me know, like, have you written like a list like this, what you think of my list. There's one more thing I want to say about this list, which is that I think it can be easy to put things that you've read more recently on lists like this, and I don't really like doing that. There are some things that I've read this year on this list, and that's fine, but I did also try to kind of give things that I read in the past also space to like be there. And I feel like I'm always having this kind of like tension between like keeping reading more books and accruing more favourites, and going back and rereading old favourites and actually figuring out if they're still favourites to me now as a 25-year-old, rather than like when I first found them as like a 15-year-old or 18-year-old or 20-year-old or 22-year-old. Yeah, and so I'm trying to get like a balance between that. I don't feel like I've got that yet, and there are definitely some books on this list that I really want to reread, and maybe I would take them off at a later date, but right now I think that they're a good like example of my reading taste and what I love and what I care about. So that's that, and I hope you enjoy this video. The first theme is eye-opening, which includes sort of world building, utopian dreaming, dyke being, just like horizon expanding, queer, wonder, hopefulness, futurity I suppose, but also just kind of like historical eye expandingness, and I guess just like beingness, like understandings of new being and like new ways of being. The first book in this is a sci-fi book, and that's Ancillary Justice by Ann Leckie. Next we have We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson, which I'd also say like is included in this category as like also a way of thinking about what language can do and how language can be eye-opening and creative, like creative of selfhood and also of like otherness too. Then we have Wayward Lives, Beautiful Experiments, Intimate Histories of Social Upheaval by Saidiya Hartman. Then we have Woman on the Edge of Time by Marge Piercy, which is actually another sci-fi book, and it's just brilliant and heartbreaking and heart-building too, obviously. It's in this category. Then we have Tahani, which I read in this bind-up of the first 4 sea books, although I haven't read the 3rd one yet, which is hard to think about with any consistency because it's so wonderful, and the way that it animates what true justice could be or is, and healing, unprecedented. And the last one in this category, but I think the first of all of these books that I read, is Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit by Jeanette Winterson, which is definitely due a reread, because I think for me this was one of my first eye-opening in terms of like dykehood books that allowed me to realise what was possible in the world and how it was possible to be in the world, and I'll always have space for it in my heart. The next theme is love / like relation, but I guess that's cheating. So the theme is love, and then like within that it's obviously about like relationship to many different things. Okay. And you can't see them, but it's important to me that you know that I'm wearing a badge, one that says Egg Care and one that says Cripple Slut. And okay, now I can tell you about these books. The first is The Girls of Slender Means by Muriel Spark. And I thought this was kind of funny actually, because I wrote my list of 25 books and then I collected the physical copies I have of them, and I put this book in, and then when I was like going through and like checking which ones I had and didn't have, I realised that I hadn't written this on the list, but I had put it in the collection of books, and I was like, wow, that's like a sign that I obviously need to like reshuffle these so this one can fit. Next we have Loat by Charlotte von Reinhold, of course. I don't need to say anything about this, the presence of this book on this list. Then we have Of Sorrow and Such by Angela Slatter. And then Disobedience by Naomi Alderman, which I also feel like I maybe don't need to talk about why this is on this list. Then we have Howard's End by E.M. Forster. I'm pretty sure E.M. Forster is the only one that shows up twice on this list, so that's pretty impressive for him. Then we have the wonderful and bittersweet Stone Butch Blues by Leslie Feinberg. Then we have The Gilda Stories by Joel Gomez, which is also wonderful and a recent read. Then we have Tipping the Velvet by Sarah Waters, which is just wonderful. Then of course we have Metabolize If Able by Clay Add, which is maybe the tiniest book on this whole collection, but is just so wonderful. Then there's The Obelisk Gate, which is the second book in the Broken Earth cycle by N.K. Jemisin. And then lastly in this love theme section is Maurice by E.M. Forster. I feel like maybe that's a good way to end this section too, with a man who was so well known for saying only connect, which is really what love is all about. Before I get into this theme, my bookshelves will have just changed, I think pretty drastically, and that's because I'm leaving, so I'm packing up. Sorry about that discontinuity. The next theme is, I suppose, like feeling, emotion, sadness, grief. It's very wibbly wobbly. I guess it's like emotional, maybe it's also kind of like elemental in that sense, or maybe like watery. But anyway, I hope you can tell from this look, that's sort of what I'm going. The first book on this list is The Water Cure by Sophie Mackintosh, which is another book that's up for a reread, and it was just one of my favourite books of all time when I read it, and still is, but I'd love to reread it now a couple years later just to see how like close I feel with it still, or maybe it's changed, which would be kind of interesting. Then we've got, of course, Villette by Charlotte Bronte. Then we've got Night Waking by Sarah Moss. That is her name, I believe. This is a book I haven't read for a long time, but I still think about it really fondly, and like the moments I had and like shared with it were really amazing, especially whilst I was reading it. Like, you know, there's so many good books in the world. The next is Will and Testament by Vigdis Hjorth, which is also just a stupendous book. I would say it definitely has kind of like similar vibes to The Water Cure actually, but in a very different way. The other reason why this is sort of like an elemental or kind of like watery specifically theme is because like all of these books, or like a lot of these books, have like blue in their design. Same with The Water Cure. Night Waking is like purpley blue, so there's obviously like a vibe going on with these books. The next book is Small Beauty by Geo King Wilson Yang, and it's also really beautiful and sensitive, and it's about grief. Then the next one is To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf, which is just an incredible, like, I don't know how somebody has like the skill to create a book like this. Like, it's oceanic and wonderful and just liquid but textual at the same time. Like, how can you do that? And then of course we have Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. Bronte's did pretty well in this list. Jane Eyre was knocked down out of the 25 list, but that's okay. And then lastly for this section we have I Shall Wear Midnight by Terry Pratchett, which is the fourth book in the Tiffany A. King series, and it's about witchcraft and care and families, and in my opinion family abolition and justice and yeah, love, just all of the important things. It is also about gender. It's a shame about the fifth book, but anyway. I've discovered perhaps my new hairstyle. I'm sorry, the lighting obviously has been lost throughout this video. Yeah, anyway, so this is great, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you when I next talk to you. I don't know, I just feel like this is a great vibe. Like, this is a very, I mean, it's a very specific vibe, but like it's kind of weird. It's definitely not like accurate, but it's cute. That's sort of what I'm going for, isn't it, really? Anyway, yeah, I hope you have a lovely day when you see this, and I will talk to you when I next talk to you. Bye! Can you see on camera that I'm wearing different coloured lips? Oops! I'm wearing different coloured lipstick. Anyway, kind of impressive I just did that.